A lot of new offensive coordinators. We'll talk about the impact on fantasy right now on FFT and 5. Adam Azer and Dave Richard here, and looking at the list of teams with different offensive coordinators than last year, when the Seahawks make their hire, it's going to be 17, I believe. I mean, we're talking a little bit more than half the league has a new offensive coordinator, not necessarily a new play caller, but a new offensive coordinator than they had in 2023. That's unbelievable. But Dave, we want to talk about the players that are most impacted. So who are some winners from new offensive coordinator hires?
Well, not that these names are all going to be great winners, but they're winners nonetheless. Starting Pittsburgh, Arthur Smith definitely has the reputation of being great with run games and coming up with good ways to run the football effectively. He did it in Atlanta. He did it in Tennessee. He had good personnel at times, both in Tennessee and Atlanta. But remember, he got 1,000 yards out of Tyler Algier. I believe he had 1,000 yards 3 straight years out of 3 different running backs with Atlanta. And now he's going to Pittsburgh. I would assume that the Steelers will improve their offensive line. Najee will be a winner out of that. Jaylen Warren will at least continue to be a double-digit PPR point per game average running back guy moving forward. I like Shane Waldron going to Chicago. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be, but his offenses in Seattle threw the ball about 60% of the time each of the last 2 years. That was with Geno Smith there. And Geno obviously rehab. This also hits Dave Canales, who's going to Carolina. But those two offensive coordinators, Waldron and Canales, should be able to put their offenses in better positions than they were last year. Chicago might be a little more pass friendly. Canales and Carolina, any improvement is needed in Carolina. Not that Bryce Young is a winner, but at least they should be able to get something out of there. And I think that Clint Kubiak going to New Orleans is a good thing for at least this year. It'll be an offense that Derek Carr is familiar with. They've got some weapons there. I don't think there would be a drop-off in what New Orleans is doing, with the additional bonus of potentially less Taysom Hill taking work away in that Saints system.
And of course, we like Zach Robinson going from the Rams as the passing game coordinator to the Falcons, because you talked about Arthur Smith and what he means to the Steelers. Well, his absence will mean a lot hopefully for Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
And one other thing, like you'll usually see it with offensive coordinators that are former quarterbacks like Zach Robinson. They'll lean into the pass a little bit more. But for the most part, offensive coordinators are going to take the players that are really good. Like Luke Getsy an example of this. Luke Getsy sees what he has on his team, and he doesn't say, nope, we're going to throw the ball 65% of the time. They're going to take the strengths of the players they have and utilize them in their offenses. That's what Getsy did in Chicago. It's probably going to be what Waldron ends up doing a decent amount of the time in Chicago too. Not necessarily force square pegs into round holes, but we might get that in Washington, and we might get that in Seattle, depending on if the Seahawks bring in Chip Kelly.
Are we going to get that in Los Angeles with the Chargers and Greg Roman? That's the question here. Their run-heavy history with Harbaugh and Roman. We talk about our losers. Is Justin Herbert a loser, and who else would you look at?
I would look at Herbert as a loser, but I'm not at the point where I want to push Herbert outside of my top 12 quarterbacks. I think he's a very talented thrower. Every metric will tell you that, at least when he's healthy. Questions about the offensive line protecting him, and then big questions about how much he'll actually throw the ball. If the Chargers build their team up like the Michigan Wolverines have been, listen, it's going to be a lot of running. How about this? Harbaugh coached Michigan from 2015 through 2022. Only once in that time span did they throw the ball 50% of the time or more. And that was in 2020 for 6 games. That was the COVID year. He was over 45% passing just twice, 2019 and 2020. So this is a coach who believes in running. And it's weird because he's a former quarterback, Harbaugh is, but he believes in running the football, playing good defense. That's how he wins football games. At least in LA with the Chargers, he'll have Herbert there to try and help him come back when they're losing games. I just don't know how often that'll be, because I think they'll do a good job of improving the defense and improving the run game.
Other losers? Anyone in particular?
I mean, I don't know if we can really say that anything is bad in New England with Alex Van Pelt there. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. And they don't have a lot of pieces in the passing game anyway, and they have an offensive line that they need to totally rehaul. Getsy in Las Vegas, I sung his praises a minute ago, but is he going to be ordered to run the ball just like Antonio Pierce ordered Bo Hardegree to run the ball last year? I'm not sure how much how creative they're going to end up getting. And then I don't think it's necessarily a downgrade. I would just expect more of the same in Tampa with Liam Cohen being there. It's another McKay disciple. Probably throw the ball just as much as they did this past year.
That is Dave Richard, and I'm Adam Azer, and you are awesome for listening. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today in 5.